The hunger wasn't a sharp pain anymore. It was a dull, heavy stone sitting at the bottom of my stomach, weighing me down with every step I took. It had been 3 days since I had eaten a proper meal. 3 days of drinking hot water from the tap to trick my belly into thinking it was full. But I wasn't worried about me. I was a tough old bird. I survived Vietnam. I survived the assembly line at Ford for 40 years. I could survive a little grumbling in my gut. My worry was Barnaby. He was sitting by his empty metal bowl, his tail thumping slowly against the linoleum floor. He was an old golden retriever, his muzzle gray just like my beard. He didn't bark, he never begged, he just looked at me with those big, trusting brown eyes that reminded me so much of my late wife, Martha. Barnaby was the last thing I had left of her. When she passed 5 years ago, she made me promise to take care of him. "He's our boy, Ray," she had whispered. "I know, buddy," I rasped, my voice sounding thin in the cold, empty kitchen. I'm going right now." I put on my coat. It was 20 years old, the wool worn thin at the elbows, but it was clean. I grabbed my wallet. I knew exactly what was in there, my debit card and a single penny tucked in the fold. My pension check should have hit the account yesterday. It was the only reason I let the cupboard get this bare. I usually budget down to the dime. The walk to the grocery store was brutal. The Cleveland wind whipped off the lake, cutting right through my trousers. My knees ached, the arthritis flaring up in the damp cold. I kept my head down, counting the cracks in the sidewalk to keep my mind off the dizziness. Inside the store, the warmth hit me, making my empty stomach cramp. I didn't look at the rotisserie chickens. I didn't look at the fresh bread. I walked straight to aisle 12. I grabbed the smallest bag of generic dog kibble, $4.20. The line was long. A young woman behind me was talking loudly on her phone, sighing impatiently every time the line stalled. I finally reached the register. The cashier, a tired-looking girl named Sarah, scanned the bag. "That'll be $4.45 with tax, Mr. Carter," she said. She knew me. I came here every Tuesday. I swiped my card. My hand was shaking a little. "Beep." Declined. My heart stopped. "Try it again," I whispered, feeling the heat rise up my neck. "There's money in there. My pension came yesterday." She swiped it again. "Beep." Declined. "I'm sorry, Mr. Carter," she said loudly. The woman behind me groaned. "Can you hurry up? It's $4, old man." I stood there, freezing, holding the bag of food that meant life or death for my dog. The humiliation washed over me like ice water. I had worked my whole life. I had never begged, and now I couldn't even feed my dog. I left the bag of dog food on the counter. I didn't look at Sarah. I didn't look at the impatient woman behind me who was already throwing her items onto the belt. I just turned and walked out, the automatic doors sliding shut behind me like the closing of a prison cell. The shame burned hotter than the freezing wind on my face. My hands were empty, my stomach was empty, and soon Barnaby's bowl would remain empty. I walked to the bank 3 blocks away. I needed answers. My legs felt heavy, like they were made of lead pipes. The dizziness came back, stronger this time, making the world tilt sideways for a second. I had to grab a parking meter to steady myself. "Not now, Ray," I told myself. "You don't fall down. You stand up straight. You're a Carter." Inside the bank, the heat was stifling. I waited in line, clutching my bank book. When I got to the teller, a nice young man named David, I slid my card across the marble counter. "Something is wrong, David," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "My card was declined. My pension comes on the 1st. It's always there." David typed on his keyboard. He frowned. He typed again, then stopped. He looked up at me, his face pale. "Mr. Carter, the deposit came through yesterday morning," he said slowly. "Then why is it declined?" I asked, my voice rising just a fraction. "Because it was transferred," David said quietly. "A transfer of $2,000. And, Mr. Carter, your savings account, the $12,000 you had in there, that was transferred out this morning, too. Your balance is 0. Actually, it's -$5 because of the overdraft fee." The room started to spin. $12,000.
That was my burial money. That was the emergency fund for the house repairs. That was everything Martha and I saved for 40 years, dollar by dollar, staying home instead of going on vacations, fixing our own plumbing, eating leftovers. Transferred? I whispered. Transferred where? By who? David turned the screen so I could see it, though the numbers were blurring in my vision. It was an internal transfer to a linked account. The joint account you opened 6 months ago with Jason Carter? Jason, my grandson, the boy I took in when he was 10 years old after my daughter died in that car wreck, the boy I taught to ride a bike, the boy I sat up with when he had the flu, the boy who swore to me last week that he was turning his life around and just needed his name on the account to build credit for a job application. He took it, I asked, gripping the counter so hard my knuckles turned white. He took it all? I'm sorry, Raymond, he said, his voice full of pity. I hated pity. Since it's a joint account, legally he has full access.
I walked home. It took twice as long as usual. Every step was a battle against the gravity of my own grief. When I opened the front door, the house smelled like old dust and cold air. I kept the thermostat at 62 degrees to save money, but now it felt like a tomb. Barnaby was waiting for me. He stood up slowly, his tail wagging, expecting the bag, expecting dinner. He nudged my hand with his wet nose. I fell to my knees. I wrapped my arms around his thick, golden neck and buried my face in his fur. He smelled like dog and dust, a smell that used to comfort me. Now it just broke me. I'm sorry, buddy. I choked out, the tears finally leaking from my eyes. I hadn't cried since Martha's funeral. I'm so sorry. I failed you. He licked the tears off my cheek. He didn't know about money. He didn't know about betrayal. He just knew I was sad. I stood up. I had to do something. I went to the kitchen. I opened the fridge. A half-empty jar of pickles, a bottle of ketchup, and 2 slices of bread in the plastic wrapper. That was it. I took the 2 slices of bread. They were slightly stale. I tore them into small pieces and put them in Barnaby's bowl. I poured a little warm water over them to make a mash, hoping it would feel like a meal. "Eat up," I whispered. He looked at it, then at me. He waited. He knew I hadn't eaten either. "Go on," I commanded, using my strict voice. "I already ate. I had a big lunch at the diner." He ate it slowly. I watched him, my stomach twisting into a hard knot of pain. I drank a glass of water, feeling it splash into the emptiness. I needed to find Jason. I pulled out my flip phone. I dialed his number. It went straight to voicemail. "Jason," I said, my voice shaking. "This is Grandpa. Please. The money. I don't care about the savings right now, but the pension. I need to buy food. I need to feed Barnaby. Please, son, just bring back $50. Please." I hung up. I sat in my recliner, the one Martha bought me for my 60th birthday, and stared at the silent phone. The sun began to set, casting long, dark shadows across the living room. I was 79 years old, a veteran, a man of honor, and I was starving to death in the house I built, waiting for the boy I loved to show me mercy. The night was the hardest part. The hunger kept waking me up. It wasn't just a growl anymore. It was a physical ache, like something was eating me from the inside out. My head pounded. I dreamed of pot roast. I dreamed of the thick, gravy-covered potatoes Martha used to make on Sundays. I woke up sucking on my tongue, the taste of nothing in my mouth. Morning came, gray and bleak. Barnaby was sleeping at the foot of my bed. He didn't jump up like he usually did. He was lethargic. The bread wasn't enough for a big dog like him. He needed protein. I got up. I felt lightheaded. I had to hold on to the dresser to keep from falling. I looked in the mirror. My face looked gray. My eyes were sunken. I looked like a ghost wearing flannel. I checked my phone. No missed calls, no texts. Jason was ghosting me. I went to the basement, my workshop. This was my sanctuary. My tools were hung on the pegboard, outlined in marker just like I liked. My granddaddy's antique chisels, my socket sets, and my prized possession, the 1965 Fender Stratocaster guitar I bought when I came back from Vietnam. I never played it much. My fingers were too thick and clumsy from the factory work, but I loved polishing it. It was my trophy. I took the guitar case off the shelf. It was heavy. "Come on, Barnaby," I said. We walked to the pawn shop on 4th Street. It was a mile away. It took us 45 minutes. I had to stop 3 times to rest on park benches. People walked past us. No one looked. An old man and an old dog. We were invisible. The pawnbroker was a guy named Rick. Heavy-set guy named Rick. I knew him. He was a shark, but an honest one. I put the case on the counter and opened it. The sunburst finish gleamed under the fluorescent lights. "Need a loan, Ray?" Rick asked, chewing on a toothpick. "No loan," I said, my voice raspy. "Sell. I need cash today." Rick looked at the guitar, then at me. He saw the shaking hands. He saw the gray skin. "It's worth $1,000 easy, Ray. But the market is slow, Ray. I can give you 300. 300. It was robbery. It was a sin. But my stomach screamed. Barnaby whined softly beside me. "Make it 350, I said, trying to stand tall. 300, cash, right now, Rick said, pulling a wad of bills from his pocket. I looked at the guitar, then I looked at Barnaby. "Deal," I whispered. I took the money. It felt dirty in my hand. I had just sold my history for a few bags of groceries.
With $300 in my pocket, I felt rich for about 10 minutes. I went straight to the grocery store. I bought the big bag of premium dog food, the lamb and rice kind Barnaby loved. I bought a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, a carton of milk, and a rotisserie chicken. I walked out of the store carrying the heavy bags. The weight strained my shoulders, but the relief was intoxicating. I was going to eat. Barnaby was going to eat. As I walked through the parking lot, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb near the entrance. The bass from the stereo was thumping so hard it rattled my teeth. The window rolled down. It was Jason. He was wearing a new leather jacket, sunglasses. He looked healthy, fed. He looked like $1,000,000. "Hey, Pop," he said, shouting over the music. He didn't even look ashamed. I froze. The bags cut into my fingers. "Jason," I said, "where have you been? I called you. The bank. The money." He laughed, a sharp, cruel sound. "Relax, Pop. I told you I'm investing it. Crypto is booming right now. I'm going to turn that 12 grand into 50 by next week. Then I'll pay you back double." "Investing?" I stepped closer, my anger finally heating up my cold blood. "You emptied the account, Jason. I couldn't buy food. I had to sell my guitar. Barnaby is starving." He rolled his eyes. "You and that damn dog, always the drama queen. Look, I gotta run. Meeting with some partners. Don't worry about it, okay? You're fine. You got your Social Security coming next month." "Next month?" I yelled, but my voice cracked. "Jason, give me my card back. Give me my money." He just revved the engine. "Stop making a scene, old man. You're embarrassing yourself." He rolled up the window. I watched him drive away. He was driving a car I had never seen before, a brand new sports car. My grandson didn't invest my money. He spent it. He spent my burial money on a car to impress his friends. I stood there in the exhaust fumes, holding my grocery bags. I realized then that it wasn't just greed, it was contempt.
He didn't care if I lived or died. To him, I was just an ATM that was finally empty. The chicken tasted like ash in my mouth. I sat at the kitchen table, watching Barnaby devour his bowl of food. He ate with such joy, his tail wagging, completely unaware that the boy who used to throw balls for him had just left us for dead. I ate, but the food didn't fix the hole in my chest. The physical hunger was gone, but a new, colder pain took its place: betrayal. 2 days passed. I tried to conserve the food I bought, but the stress was eating me up. My heart was fluttering in my chest, a weird bird-like sensation I hadn't felt before. I had skipped my heart medication for 4 days now because the prescription refill cost $40, and I was terrified to spend the cash I had left. On Friday morning, I woke up and couldn't breathe. It felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest. I tried to sit up, but the room tilted violently. I fell out of bed, hitting the floor with a heavy thud. Barnaby was there instantly. He barked, a loud, booming bark that he saved for strangers. He licked my face, whining. "Phone!" I gasped. "Phone!" It was on the nightstand, too high. I couldn't reach it. My left arm was numb. I knew what this was. I had seen guys on the assembly line go down with this. "Bark, Barnaby, bark!" He barked. He howled, a mournful, terrifying sound. I lay on the cold floor, looking at the dust bunnies under the bed. I thought about Martha. I thought maybe this is it. Maybe I'd just go see her now. It would be easier. No more cold, no more hunger, no more Jason. But then I saw Barnaby's face. If I died here, no one would find me for weeks. Barnaby would be trapped in here with me. He would starve. "No!" I gritted out. I dragged myself across the floor, inch by inch. My fingernails scraped against the wood. I had to get to the door. I had to unlock it so someone could hear the dog. It took me an hour to move 10 feet. The pain was blinding. Finally, I reached the hallway. I reached up and unlocked the deadbolt. Then the darkness took me. I woke up to the beep, beep, beep of machines, the smell of antiseptic. Hospital. I opened my eyes. A nurse was adjusting an IV bag. She was young, with kind eyes. "Welcome back, Mr. Carter," she said softly. "You gave us a scare." "My dog," I croaked. My throat was dry as sand. "Barnaby." "He's safe," she smiled. "Your neighbor, Mrs. Higgins? She heard the dog howling. She found you. She's taking care of Barnaby. She said he's a good boy." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. "Heart attack?" "Mild one," she said. "Exacerbated by malnutrition and stress. Mr. Carter, the doctors found your medication levels were 0, and you're severely underweight. Is there enough food at home?" I looked away. The shame returned. "I'm fine," I lied. "We called your next of kin," she said, her voice changing. It became tighter. "Your grandson, Jason Carter." My heart rate monitor sped up. Beep, beep, beep. "He came by an hour ago," she said. "He spoke to the billing department. He said he wasn't responsible for your medical bills, and he asked the doctor how long you would be out of commission." "He was here?" "Yes, he left something for you." She reached into her pocket and pulled out an envelope. It was a legal envelope. I took it with my good hand. I opened it. Inside wasn't a card. It wasn't a letter. It was an eviction notice. Notice to vacate. The date was for 3 days from now. "I don't understand. I own my house. I paid the mortgage off in 1998. The nurse looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Carter, a social worker is coming to talk to you, but according to the records Jason showed the admission staff,
He owns the house. He said you signed it over to him 6 months ago." The social worker was a sharp woman named Miss Alvarez. She sat by my bed with a laptop. "Mr. Carter, I need you to be honest with me," she said. "Do you remember signing a quitclaim deed 6 months ago?" "No," I said firmly. "I signed a paper Jason gave me for the bank. He said it was to add him to the account so he could build credit. That's all." Miss Alvarez pulled up a document on her screen. "This is a digital copy filed with the county. That's your signature." I looked. It was my scrawl, but it wasn't quite right. The loop on the R was too big. "That's a trace," I said, my voice trembling with rage. "He traced my signature. He put it on a deed transfer." "If that's true, this is fraud, elder abuse," Miss Alvarez said, her eyes narrowing. "But proving it is hard. He has the title. He's listed the house for sale, Mr. Carter. There's a pending offer. He's trying to sell it for cash, fast, probably well below market value." It all clicked. The investments, the car. He was liquidating my life. He was going to sell the house while I was in the hospital, leave me homeless, penniless, and sick. I realized aloud, he thinks I'm dying. He asked the doctor how long I'd be out of commission. He thinks I won't survive this to fight him. I closed my eyes. I saw Jason's smiling face at Christmas. I saw him lying to me. I saw him driving that car while I walked in the freezing cold. I opened my eyes. The sadness was gone. The grief was gone. All that was left was cold, hard steel. The same steel that got me through the jungle in '68. "Miss Alvarez," I said, my voice steady for the first time in days, "I need a lawyer, not a court-appointed one. I need the meanest, toughest lawyer in Cleveland. I have a 1965 Fender Stratocaster at a pawn shop on 4th Street. It's worth $1,000. Can you help me get it back so I can sell it properly to pay a retainer?" She looked at me, surprised by the shift in my tone. Then she smiled. "I know a lawyer who does pro bono work for veterans, Mr. Carter. You keep your guitar. We're going to fight this."
I spent 4 days in the hospital. I ate every meal they gave me. I did every exercise the physical therapist told me to do. I got stronger. I wasn't just recovering, I was training. Miss Alvarez and the lawyer, Mr. Henderson, worked fast. They pulled the bank records. They found the security footage of Jason withdrawing cash at casinos. They found the notary who stamped the deed, a friend of Jason's who admitted under pressure that I wasn't present when it was stamped. "We have enough for an emergency injunction to stop the sale," Mr. Henderson told me, "and enough for an arrest warrant, but we need to catch him in the act of finalizing the sale to ensure the charges stick for the big fraud." "I know when he's doing it," I said. "He texted me. He thinks I'm still in a coma. He said he's coming to the house on Tuesday to clean out the junk before the new owners take possession." Tuesday was today. I checked out of the hospital against medical advice. Mrs. Higgins picked me up. She brought Barnaby in the back seat. When he saw me, he whined and licked my face until I was soaking wet. "Let's go home, buddy," I said. We drove to the house. There was a sold sign in the yard. Seeing it felt like a punch to the gut. We went inside. I sat in my recliner. I turned off the lights. I waited. An hour later, I heard the sports car roar into the driveway. I heard the key in the lock. Jason walked in whistling. He had 2 buddies with him. "All right, boys," Jason shouted. "Grab the TV, the tools in the basement, and anything that looks like silver. Everything else goes in the dumpster. I want this place empty by noon." He walked into the living room checking his phone. He didn't see me in the shadows until I spoke. "You're not taking my tools, Jason." He jumped a foot in the air. He spun around. I flipped on the lamp. I was sitting there petting Barnaby. I was wearing my best suit. "Grandpa?" He looked like he'd seen a ghost. "I thought the hospital said—" "They said I was resting. They didn't say I was dead. Jason's shock turned into a sneer quickly. He recovered fast. He was arrogant to the bone. "Well, look at you," he laughed nervously. "Back from the dead. Look, Pop, it doesn't matter. House is sold, deal is done. You gotta go. I found you a nice nursing home in the city. State funded. You'll love it." "You sold my house?" I asked. "It's my house," he spat. "My name is on the deed. You're just a squatter now. Get your dog and get out before I call the cops." I think the cops are already here. Red and blue lights flashed through the front window, lighting up Jason's pale face. He ran to the window. 3 cruisers were in the driveway, blocking his sports car. "What did you do?" he screamed, turning on me. "I protected myself," I said, standing up. "I didn't need the cane. The deed is a forgery, Jason. The bank transfers are fraud. Mr. Henderson has everything. The notary flipped on you this morning." The front door burst open. Police officers flooded the room. "Jason Carter, hands behind your back." Jason looked at me, panic in his eyes. Pop, tell them. Tell them it was a mistake. I'm your grandson. You can't let them take me to jail. I'm family." I looked at him. I remembered the hunger. I remembered the cold. I remembered Barnaby licking the empty bowl. I remembered him driving away in that car while I stood in the exhaust. "Family doesn't let family starve," I said quietly. They cuffed him. As they dragged him out, he was crying, screaming obscenities at me. I didn't look away. I watched him go. When the house was quiet again, I sat back down. Barnaby put his head on my knee. It was over. The house was mine again. The bank was reversing the fraudulent transfers. I would get my savings back. But as I looked around the empty room, I didn't feel triumph. I felt a heavy, quiet sadness. I had kept my dignity, I had kept my home, but I had lost the last person on earth who shared my blood. I stroked Barnaby's soft ears. "It's just us now, buddy. Just you and me." Barnaby looked up and wagged his tail. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough.